They routinely put out new versions of each of these knives and then discontinue them. So, you know, if you're a collector, it's great because you've always got something new and cool to pick up. But if you're looking for a very specific version of it, you know, you might have a hard time because they don't keep those very, very unusual and specific versions of the knife in production. Hello my friends, Late Boy Scout here with my review of the Kershaw Scallion, and this is one of many, many varieties of this classic and very popular design from Kershaw and Ken Onion. Yes, that's right, Ken Onion, the designer of so many Kershaws and lots of other great knives. Lots and lots of other great knives. During the course of this review, we're going to talk about some Kershaw knives that are very much related to this Scallion, and also compare it to some other knives that fit very much in the same EDC type role, and I'll classify this as sort of a medium-small, or probably just small EDC. There are much smaller ones you can go with, and I'll point one of those out here in a little bit, but I would call this definitely a small everyday carry knife. And let's show just how small it is. In my hand, we're looking at about 3 fingers, almost a fourth on there. And the blade length of about, let me make sure I have this right, a blade length of about 2 1/4 inches long. Okay, so that's definitely on the small side. Can you go smaller than that? Like I said, yes, of course you can. There are definitely some smaller knives out there than that, but I don't like to go much smaller than this. In fact, this is almost too small for me. But let's get into the knife a little more and talk about some of the excellent design features and some of the, I don't know, just some of the great characteristics of this very well-designed knife. So the blade shape is one of Ken Onion's kind of classic designs with that sort of drop point. It's almost got a sort of a Spyderco feel to it. If it had a hole there, I just would call it a Spyderco knife, you know, in the way that it drops down so far. And then a nice belly to it and, of course, a recurve. Now, the recurve is a little obscured by those serrations, those sort of scallop serrations, and that's the type of serration you're going to get on a lot of Kershaw knives, almost all of them lately have that type of serration on it. Do I think you know, anything negative of those serrations? For the most part, I don't go for serrations, but I don't mind these ones too much. They're not too bad. A little difficult to sharpen on, let's say, a Spyderco Sharp Maker, which does a little better with those sort of pointed ones, in my opinion. Your view there may vary. But yeah, so I normally wouldn't take serrations, but I got a good price on this knife, so I just wanted to pick it up anyway and have that variety in order to be able to show it to you guys. Again, I mentioned at the beginning of this video that there are many variations of this knife. And moving away from the blade shape, well, one last thing we'll talk about is that this area is hollow ground, meaning that it kind of scoops down from that stock down to the terminating edge. And it's a very good, you know, amount of hollow grinding and a good, nice little tip there, a great little point, almost a needle-like point on it. That's pretty cool, nice blade shape. But moving on, going back to what I was saying before about all the different varieties of this knife, there are a lot of different varieties of this knife, and there have been. And that's one thing I want to make clear is that Kershaw routinely puts out a new version of knives like the Scallion, and also, since I got it here, the Leek. They routinely put out new versions of each of these knives and then discontinue them. So, you know, if you're a collector, it's great because you've always got something new and cool to pick up. But if you're looking for a very specific version of it, you know, you might have a hard time because they don't keep those very, very unusual and specific versions of the knife in production. All right, so that's just something to keep in mind. This particular version, as you can tell, is all black. This is a aluminum handle scale, anodized black. They also make a frame lock version of the Scallion, very similar to this frame lock version of the Leek that you see here, operating in very much the same manner, and also this frame lock version of the Chive. And we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves and showing you some of the other Ken Onion designed knives. You can also get this in a sort of polyamide handle, which is a type of a plastic material. It's fine. It's going to be a little bit thicker than both the aluminum version and the frame lock version. The frame lock version will be the thinnest of the different varieties. There, once again, is the frame lock leak, and you can expect that kind of thinness in your frame lock scallion should you pick one up. The pocket clip is about the goofiest of all these three, and let's just go ahead and lay them on the table while we're at it. The chive, is a very kind of long pocket clip, longer than it needs to be. And the scallion, I kind of feel like that's the case with that one as well. A little bit longer than it needs to be. And I guess I could say that about the leek. However, I love the leek, so I kind of forgive it for having that longish pocket clip. This one is, like I said before, a little goofy looking to me. And I would prefer if this black version of the scallion had a black pocket clip. It just kind of would have gone together a little better, and possibly even black thumb studs. I don't know why they couldn't do that. Whatever. So moving on, we'll talk briefly about some of the things that it does have in common with those other knives, like the safety, okay? Both the leek and the chive have that very simple, very easy to actuate safety that just works just like this. You close your knife, of course, and then the safety is just simply, pushed up like that, and it goes over the end, over the tip of that blade, making it so that it cannot be deployed. It's very, very simple and very effective, and also actually pretty easy to disengage with your pinky, just like that. Real easy. So I think that's an excellent feature. I could take it or leave it. On a knife like this, actually, I'm glad it's there, because depending on how you carry this thing, it can be actuated pretty easily, especially since it's got that spring assist. Just a little pressure there and it flies right out. So it's nicer if you're going to store this someplace to be able to put that safety on before you put it down, or hand it to somebody, or whatever you're going to do. Moving on, we'll talk a little bit about some other features like this nice jimping up here. That gives you a nice little purchase for your thumb as you're gripping that knife. And again, I talked to you about how it fits in my hand, and a good amount of little jimping right there. Also, that's a flipper right there, but that also kind of turns into a choil when you hold it this way in the open position. Works really well. Obviously, it's got those Ken Onion curves to it, all those ergonomics and aesthetics that you come to recognize and expect from Ken Onion designs. Now let's lay it down and compare it to the other two Kershaw Ken Onion blades. Not the only other two, by the way. He's got several others, and I guess I could get one more of them out while I'm at it. Here is the Kershaw Oh So Sweet, also a Ken Onion design. You can definitely see some of the same lines in these knives, some of the same sort of design philosophy coming through in these knives. Kind of what we come to expect from Ken Onion, and hey, I like it. I like what he's putting out. I like what he's done with Kershaw. I like what he does with CRKT. He's a great knife designer, and I always look forward to seeing what he comes up with. Now that we've compared that to some other Kershaw Ken Onions and some other Ken Onion designs, let's go ahead and compare it to some other great EDC blades. So I think it stacks up pretty favorably against a handful of other small EDC blades. Here is the Buck Vantage Small. You can see that those come in pretty close in size. Here's the SOG Flash 1. Not the biggest fan of this knife, but it's pretty popular. So for those of you that own it or know a lot about it, you can see that the Scallion stacks up pretty well against it, as a matter of fact. And here's one more. This is the Boker mini-kalashnikov. You're going to have a hard time finding that unless you go to a very specific website. I think it's Blade HQ is the only one that has this. So if you really want a Boker Kalashnikov, mini-kalashnikov that is, head over to Blade HQ and see if you can pick one up. It stacks up against a number of other EDC knives besides these that are very much in the same size category. But I just wanted to give you a very brief look at some of the popular ones you're going to run into and find out there. Certainly, there certainly are a lot of other choices when you get into this size range, into this sort of philosophy range, when you want to have this smallish EDC knife, but get lots of good utility work done with it, and for a good price as well. Those are all pretty well priced knives at $30, $40 and under. And the Scallion is not too far away from that as well, priced at maybe 40 bucks, even less depending on where you look for it. So overall, the Kershaw Scallion is a very good little EDC knife. Is it the size that I prefer? No, usually not. I usually go for something along the size of the leek, sometimes larger. And you can see those side to side that they are, fairly different in size. I usually like something a little bit on the, medium to large size. But the Kershaw Scallion, if it suits you for the size of EDC that you like and you prefer, it's going to be a fantastic little folder for you. Well, there you go, guys. That's my review of the Kershaw Scallion, a great little EDC knife. I'm the Late Boy Scout, and I'll talk to you later.